All right, guys. Friday Night Live became Saturday Night Live, which that used to be a good show. I don't know if it's any good anymore. If anybody's watched it, let me know. I just pull the old clips from about the late 90s on back. Um, Back from a mid and West Tennessee tour. I think I looked at my mileage and it added up to close to 700. I felt like maybe I did the math wrong, but you get out to that part of the state where everything is really far apart and you realize that the miles add up. So, Mr. Brian, thank you for the good wishes and thank you for your help and diagnostic assistance yesterday. The news of the last couple of days is that the Jeep has been getting god awful gas mileage. I need to go back and do my math, but I think I'm under 8 miles to the gallon. Normally, it does pretty well, close to 20 in a lot of cases, especially obviously when I'm not pulling a trailer and I don't have a ton of tools in the back. And as far as we can tell, we either have a bad O2 sensor, possibly a clogged catalytic converter, um, and yeah, you did more than some people. With that diagnostic assistance. I need to grab a code reader. I looked them up; they're not expensive. That's something that obviously needs to go in the toolkit. But yeah, crappy gas mileage, and it's starting to kind of like lug and lag going up the hills. So I'm really hoping it's not the cat because that's going to be expensive. The O2 sensors may not be too bad. But I talked to Dad when I got home today, and we're just going to take a look at it tomorrow afternoon and see what we can figure out. And I will use your affiliate link. Yes, I will. Don't mind a bit. Oh, while you're in here, Brian, I'm assuming that when people use your link and you get the credit or your commission or however that works through Amazon, can you see who bought what? Because what I need to know is like if I bought an adult oriented item, can you tell that I did that, or do I just need to go to my regular Amazon page so you can't tell that I bought adult oriented item? I'm just curious. Not that I care, but I'm just curious. So yes, the West Tennessee trip. I went out. Howdy, off grid ping. Can uh, can only let me get my comments correct here. Brian can only see the items. So if you buy something bizarre, then he's just wondering who it is. He's just wondering, like, is that Kyle? Is that Carrie? Is that Tim? Like, who bought the y'all fill in the blank? I don't ever buy stuff like that. That's just, I just buy tools. Um, well, we're already off the rails here, but hey, Cormac, thanks for dropping in. I appreciate you guys popping in because I know I just kind of put up a very last minute notification on that because frankly I wasn't sure when I was going to get back today because I had entertained making some more stops on the way back, but I decided not to deviate from my route any further once I was back on the interstate because just watching that gas gauge drop was just it hurts my heart. I told Angel, we're kind of in the time of year where the budget's kind of extra tight until I get my business built back up again, so we're extra careful with the budget and um, at some point this morning she texted me and she said, hey, use the credit card. Use the fuel card instead of the bank card. Like, we'll be fine, but we just have to be a little more cautious until things pick back up again. And I'm right on that cusp. It's coming. I actually got a message from a lady uh, early this morning who wants me to come out and do some design work here in the area for a pollinator friendly privacy plantings. So that's going to be fun to design. So I'm gonna meet up with her and see if we can get on the same page with that. So what brought me to West Tennessee was a design job for a lady that's on about a 1 acre lot that backs up to I don't know if you want to call it a small lake or a large pond, but probably an acre-ish of water that it backs up to on a hillside, and she wants help designing a permaculture based food systems. So we walked the land. I was there for about 3 hours, took a ton of photos, listened to what she's interested in, got an idea of what kind of plant budget she's working with, what kind of time budget she's working with, and we just kind of get to work on that. So I've got several pages worth of notes that I need to work on for her, and we'll make it happen. And since I was out on that end of the state, I decided to add some other stops. And Brian, you're right. As soon as it warms up, it starts rolling in every time. We all get spring fever around here, and it's here come the requests. So I decided to go out to Special Operations Equipment, and that is for those of you guys who don't know, that's where we hold the Self-Reliance Festival twice a year, and I'm going to be leading a foraging walk at the one in April. So it's the first weekend in April. It's the Saturday and Sunday is when the festival is. I will be doing a class. Probably, we don't have it fixed exactly within the schedule yet, but it'll be either before or after that weekend. And I went through and essentially created a route that we will take across the property, kind of adjacent to their property on some public land. And I kind of went ahead and identified quite a few things that I can already point out. And of course, by April, there will be more things to point out. Took some photos and basically just kind of started putting together in my head what that can look like, what I want to talk about. And it's going to be probably at least a 4-hour class. So I'll be able to go a little deeper than just, hey, this is the plant, and maybe this is what you use it for, to this is how you tell it apart from this other plant. This is what else you may find nearby when you find this plant in these kind of soil conditions. This is how you can harvest the plant. This is how you can use it for medicine or food. And that's an intro level. It'll probably be, we're going to make it a little more of like a foraging 102. I did the 101 last year, kind of squashed it in. I actually did 2 walks, but they were both just under an hour long. And we didn't even get all the way through what I had in mind because of the time constraint. So this is an opportunity for people to sign up separately for a more in-depth Tennessee foraging, Southeast plant foraging experience. And Mr. Chris Dixon, glad you can join us. Good to see you there. And we're just going to kind of keep pulling that together. Looking forward to doing it. And last week, I just got it in my head, as it happens, because I just kind of often do things on a whim. I realized I couldn't be the only one dealing with cabin fever around here. So I posted here locally that I will be holding a class here at our farm in West Knox County. We're doing it on Saturday, February 10th from noon to 3. We'll get started by noon. If we go a little longer, that's cool. It'll probably be at least 3 hours. So I'm also putting together that route that will kind of take us through some pastures, some area that's getting turned into pasture that it's had one pass of sheep. There will be wood line, and there will be we'll cover both kind of open areas, canopy areas, and we will this will be more of a 101 class, and I'm keeping it a little bit smaller. I've got maybe 2 or 3 spots left. Got about 7 people signed up right now. I try to keep it around 10 to 12. It's just easier to communicate with people. And I also do not. Hey, Real Wilder Life, glad you made it over here. Appreciate that. I try to I don't like to yell. I'm not very good at projecting my voice in a group. So I like to be able to have a small circle of people that I can kind of stand in the middle of, point out a thing, talk about the thing. And that's how I like to roll. Until I get things like, I don't know. I don't really want to use a megaphone. That kind of defeats the purpose of standing outside in nature and talking about plants. It's nice to not drive off the birds and all the critters that are out there. So if you're in the Knoxville area, or if you know anybody, send them over to me, strongrootsresources@gmail.com. And it's $20, 3 hours. People are welcome to take photos. I like to keep it really casual. I'm sure we'll come across seeds and things that we can harvest. I'll have my little tool bag with me. So if we want to like dig some sassafras root or that sort of thing, or if we want to dig some, what's my other root that I'm thinking of right now? Dandelion root. Good time of year to do dandelion root. Then we can do that, and we'll wrap it up with. We'll probably build a campfire out back behind the cabin, and we'll do just an opportunity just to kind of fellowship and hang out. So we've got a couple people who I already know, and then we've got some new people. And yeah, Chris, it is a bargain, and that's mostly because I'm not doing a follow-up document with this. Normally with the classes that I do that are bigger and a little more expensive, I create a Google document with color photos and more details, and that way so people can remember, oh yeah, okay, that's rabbit tobacco. They can look that up in their document and click the link on more information. And it's just kind of, that's where I get compensated for my time behind the desk, because that's always my least favorite part. So I have to be monetarily motivated to sit at a desk. Let me see what Rachel said here. A small voice. She has a small voice as well. All right. A battery operated mic with a speaker. All right. Well, hey, that sounds like something I need to look up. I realized that even after just when I was at this East Tennessee Homestead Alliance event a couple of weeks ago, it was mostly, it's not that I talked so long, but I was trying to be heard, because it was the kind of building where the sound was just bouncing off the walls. And so when I was just talking with individuals one-on-one, my voice was almost gone just after a couple of hours. So yeah, I would like to avoid that if at all possible. I'm sure there's ways that I should probably learn how to speak, and we'll get to that when we need to. So the SOE visit was great. Peppermint tea with local honey is wonderful, by the way. It's nice to be in my shop because we're still actually fairly mild. We're still in the 50s outside right now, even as the sun goes down. And I'm happy to be in my shop, because if I try to do this inside the house, you know how Brian has dogs that slobber and bark and shake the trailer. I have cats that want to sit on me or climb on the keyboard or sit on my shoulder or maybe randomly throw up in the corner. So it's nice to kind of be in the shop and control conditions a little bit better. So the SOE visit, my preparation only took me about an hour and a half. It just didn't take as long as I thought it would. And I was talking to John Willis while I was there, and he said, hey, if you've got time, let's do a podcast together. So that was an easy yes. So he and I sat down and recorded an episode of his podcast, which is called Pulling the Thread. And they all of theirs is on YouTube. I don't think it's on like an actual podcast feed. It's a separate video section on the Special Operations Equipment YouTube. So we talked for well over an hour, and kind of covered some ground that I haven't really discussed on other podcasts, which is nice. A little more about my initial background in EMS, what brought us back to the family land here after being in the city for a while, a little more in depth about what I feel kind of sets my business apart from other kinds of designers and that sort of thing. So it was a great conversation, and I'll certainly post it up when it goes out. I think they film and record a lot of podcasts in a day, and then they have a release schedule for them. So talked to him for a while. He invited me in for lunch. They had like a low country boil, which was wonderful. Had some lunch. And then we got to talking a little bit about foraging bags, which this has kind of been a thing in the back of my mind. Backwoods Butcher has joined us. Thank you guys for coming in. It's great to catch up with you. We were talking about these foraging bags, and I've used a couple of different bags that just stuff I just had around, and I've kind of gotten it in my head that I would like to have something a little bit specialized, and loosely thinking I like kind of, like those reusable grocery bag style, but with an opening that is somewhat rigid, so it doesn't collapse down. So as you're bending over, you can just easily drop things in it. And I would like to have a couple of internal tool pockets for my pruners and the hoary knife. And then I usually carry like a 3-tined little hand rake, little hand cultivator. Those are usually the 3 things I have with me. Everything else is in my pockets. Usually have a knife and a multi-tool. So I would, Rachel, I've looked at some of these too. And I know how to sew myself. I don't have the heavy duty equipment that John has, obviously, but I can sew on canvas that's not too thin. So we talked about that and kind of batted some ideas back and forth. And I wasn't really coming out saying you should design a bag. I just said it was on my mind. And he sent me back with a couple of their kind of grocery bags, and I'm going to mess with them. I'm going to take some scrap canvas and see what would work, and just kind of mess around with it. I actually got my sewing machine out the other day. It's actually, I won't be able to really show this easily without messing up my whole setup here, but I have got a Singer 99 that was manufactured in the early 50s. This was my grandmother's sewing machine. It's a machine I learned to sew on. And it's one of these it's portable. It's got a case. So I just cleared an area on my hutch, and it turns out that it's kind of a perfect workspace because it's bigger than a desk. It's what people would have called an entertainment center. What this used to hold TV and stereo and all that bulky stuff. I don't have all that, so I basically just move my books elsewhere, and I've got a nice working space. So I had a minor toolbox fallacy where I wanted to be able to do this stuff, but I didn't really have a space to work for it. So I made a space a few days ago, and we're starting to get back into some weather where I can work in the shop, which is not heated and not insulated. So when we're a little bit warmer, I can do more fine detail work that I can't do with gloves on. I will probably end up adding some pockets to these, and the let me see what Chris said. Yeah, these box liners would work. One of the things that John pointed out were these rigid, they're semi-rigid, thin plastic shelf covers that you put them on, like your wire shelves, so stuff doesn't fall through. And you could cut strips off of them. And he said, at least on his machines, you can sew through those. The needle will pass through that plastic and stitch it. So I will see what I can engineer up and just have it just have it on hand. And I'm not saying this is going to happen, but I do kind of keep a running list of what kind of tools or tool improvements or equipment improvements would work for the kind of stuff that I do, because I kind of do things that are a little bit out of the ordinary when it comes to foraging and gardening things. I use tools in atypical ways. Rachel uses a pouch attached to her belt and a basket. I've done something similar. I actually took like an ammo dump bag that is maybe roughly 12 by 12 diameter, and it's got a little cinch pull that you can close off. And I attached that, instead of being to my belt, I attached it to a sling, like a weed eater style sling, and it hangs off to my left side. And that works fairly well for small things, but I actually just use that to carry the stuff that I use when I am doing, when I'm on a property and I am tagging things and I am documenting things on a property. It carries my tree tags. It carries my tacks that I use to attach the tags to the tree. So I use one of those heavy duty tactical pins to write on the metal tree tags. And I'll stuff my marker flags in there, and there's a few other things, and that works. That works well for that. I kind of like to have my hands free as much as possible, basically, because I'll find myself being on slopes and doing things where I'm like scooting down on my butt and trying to keep up with a basket or something over my shoulder is kind of weird. So yeah, I'll keep you guys up to date. I'll get it posted around on the Telegram and whatnot when I get to work on that. After I was done at SOE, I hollered over at Brian and Corey, and we met up at Tim's Land and basically just walked around. I just kind of I haven't really seen it at the end of winter. So with the foliage really down, we can see more distance. We just walked around. We didn't do much of anything. I got a better look at what trees are out there in terms of, I knew there was a lot of beech tree, and there's some really big beech trees. There's actually more tulip poplar than I initially realized. And Brian, we were talking about morels. When I was talking to Mama today, she says the last time she found morels, they were under young tulip poplars. And with the amount of slash that is on that ground and the amount of biomass that's around, we've got to be finding those things as soon as the season rolls around. So that's just kind of my thought. They got to be out there, and they like to spawn up in leaf litter and sawdust too. She was telling me. So we'll see. There's some areas where the brambles are kind of thick, but not bad, not any worse than just kind of, if you lay your stick down ahead of you and kind of trample them down, you can get through. The morels come up usually in late to mid spring if it's been wet enough, and then sometimes we will also see a flush when things start to cool down again in the fall. So it's more of a cool weather thing. It's not really a warm weather thing. Let's see. So yeah, Tim's Land. I just kind of wanted to keep getting a sense of the general layout. We kind of went over to the newest parcel that he has added recently, because I had not really been on that parcel before. Last time I was out there in October, we didn't go that far. So I'm just I like to, on properties of that size, I like to observe things for a good long while before I let my mind do too much design work on it. I also think I heard this on the latest Delinquents Gully catch up somewhere on somebody's show, that the Tactical Redneck's going to go out there too. And Tactical has a very good eye for water movement because he has been so involved in improving water movement where he and Nicole live. So that'll be another good brain to be involved on that project. And I stayed both nights with my friend Melissa. She's up in Waverly. And when I was wrapping up, I had dinner with Brian and Corey at a Mexican restaurant and had some really good fish tacos. And I, messaged Melissa, and I just had it in my head. I was like, I think I'm like about a half hour away from where Melissa lives. I was an hour and a half away. So I didn't get to her place until about 8 o'clock that night. And I used to, if you have your like Google location on, if you're not weird about Google knowing where you are, then you can look up your timeline on Google Maps and it'll show you where all you've been. And unfortunately, I've had that turned off for a while. I used to use it a lot when I was on the ambulance, and then I just kind of got away from it. I really wished I had had that on, and there might be a way to go back. I mean, I'm sure I could go back and figure it out pretty close. But I did not realize how far south I was of Waverly. So, plus you're in part of the state where, as a crow flies, it's not as far, but it's all back roads and, you know, a couple of county highways. No major roadways to get you where you want to go, and there's so much water and so many ridges and things that there's no such thing as a straight shot. So I was starting to feel like I was out in Texas because nowhere was close to anything. Yeah, Rachel, I'm in Knoxville. I'm in not actually in the city of Knoxville, but I am in where our farm's in West Knox County, and the bulk of my activity happens between middle to Tennessee to East Tennessee. Enjoyed a nice conversation with Melissa. I want to plug her stuff real quick because it's absolutely worth it. Melissa is also a homesteader. She's quite involved in the Self-Reliance Festival community and the Living Free in Tennessee community. And she makes amazing spice mixes. So if you are, it really doesn't matter what kind of diet you have, but I've found, especially since we're more into the carnivore and ketovore side of things, we are always trying new ways of dressing up our meat dishes. And Melissa runs Honeybees Mercantile. You can find them on Facebook for sure. It's Honeybees all together, Mercantile. And you can order, she's got dozens of types of spice mixes, and they're all amazing. So reach out to her if that's something that you can use in your kitchen. If you know people who run, because Melissa and I were kind of kicking back and forth ways that she can grow that business the other evening. And I feel like what she really needs, in addition to telling more people about what she does, is she needs the right set of eyeballs on people who like to do, it really isn't even necessarily any specific kind of diets, I should say. She has like Mediterranean mixes. She has like Thai and Asian style spice mixes. It's all kinds of stuff. She sources everything locally. There are no preservatives. There's no junk in them. We've even asked her she makes special mixes for us where she does not add sugar. So if there's a recipe that calls for a mix that calls for sugar, she just leaves it out, or she uses like a little bit of stevia instead or something like that. So Honeybees Mercantile, wonderful spices, great stuff. We have, every time we plan to see her, or if I'm going to be out on that end of the state for the festival, Angel sends me with a refill list of what she wants. They've never disappointed. She's got rubs, she's got meat rubs, all that kind of stuff. So Backwoods, you might want to reach out to her if you don't already have somebody doing spices, or if you just want to try something different. I'm wondering if she just needs to reach out to more butchers or what the case may be, but that's just something that was on my mind, and I would love to see her be able to grow that business. So I got up this morning about 7 o'clock, had some coffee, talked to Melissa a little bit longer, and threw my stuff in the Jeep. And I had about a half a tank of fuel, and it was going to take me about 45 minutes to get anywhere near a gas station. I was that far up. The first gas station I made it to from north of Waverly was in Dixon, and I was down to a quarter of a tank. I didn't know how many miles that is, but it was too few miles for it to make sense. So I drove the Jeep home as light on the throttle as I could. I pretty much set the boy, you guys can tell I'm tired. What do you call that thing? The speedometer, the cruise control. I set the cruise control to be about 58 miles an hour, which, pissed off plenty of people, but I was in the right lane and you guys can go around. That seemed to be the speed where even when we were going up a hill, it was not trying to lag a whole lot and kind of wasn't exactly lurching like you do when you're down on a spark plug, but it was obviously not happy. And I had talked to Dad about the O2 sensors the day before, and I said, "Hey, is this something I can just stop out here and change this myself?" And he said, "No." He said, This is not something you want to do in the bush." Those were Dad's exact words. So I limped it on home, and we're going to deal with it tomorrow. Hopefully, we're just going to find that it's an O2 sensor, and changing that out will make things happy. I really hope I have not clogged up the catalytic converter. It has new plugs. It has a new air filter. The coils are fine. Unless there's something funny in the fuel injection, I don't necessarily suspect that. I have run the appropriate amount of sea foam through it. That didn't change anything. So we'll see how all that goes. There's always something to be fixed. That's the update, more or less, for the weekend. I've got another property assessment. Hey, Pippin. Yeah. Pippin gets credit for helping me diagnose this stuff as well. I have posted this across multiple forums. Everybody's probably sick of me talking about it, but mechanical stuff is, I have a hard time figuring out things that I can't see. I'm getting better. I'm much better with it than I used to. And of course, YouTube is hugely helpful, but Pippin, we were batting some stuff back and forth because he's a Jeep guy too. And yes, Pippin, we're suspecting the upstream. There's only one upstream. There's one downstream. And actually, Dad has been talking to the guy that we got the Jeep from is a family friend, and we still see him all the time. His name is Mark. And this was Mark's Jeep for a long time. And he kept all the maintenance records, which I now have. And he told us, and see if you know any differently, but he told us that the downstream O2 sensor really doesn't do a whole lot. It really doesn't. Like, most of the communication comes with that one in the front. So we'll see. I agree that not much else is logical. I cannot remember if I relayed this to people, but I might be incriminating myself here. I drilled a tiny little hole in the catalytic converter to see if that changed things, and it didn't. I did that before I even left town. It's like 1/8 of an inch hole, and it's pushing exhaust and air out of it fine. I don't think we have a flow issue through the cat. And so, just in case the EPA is listening, I have a patch kit, and that is going to get patched. But Tennessee actually is not one of these states where we have to do the emissions testing. But just to be cool, because I do care about the environment, obviously I'm a permaculturalist, I'm a permaculture guy, I will plug that hole. But that was the only way I could quickly test that theory. So yeah, Dad and I will wrangle that tomorrow. And we also found out that our friend Mark, the former owner of the Jeep, has put in a lift. I don't know if he's put it in yet, but he's in the process of putting in a lift in his garage. So I might be able to trade things like beer and a little bit of cash to be able to get it up on a lift, so I don't have to crawl underneath it if it comes to that. Chris, that thing is already loud. I don't know if I could stand how loud that thing would be. Yeah, it's it's already pretty chuffy, but yeah, we'll see. I don't know. Would that make my gas mileage better? It seems like it might make it worse. I don't know enough about this stuff. I have to always read up a lot to kind of figure out. It's not a plant. I don't know what's up. Let's see. We've got a pretty busy week ahead. I'm going out to see a property in Maryville with a lady in the community. She's looking at purchasing this property, but she has some reservations. So we're going to go over it together. I'm going to give my opinion on things so she can decide if it's best for her to move forward or not. Talk to this lady who wants to do the pollinator privacy screening. We're going to talk about that next week, I believe. I'm going to get ready for the foraging class on Saturday. I've got another day scheduled for my lady down here where I'm doing the ongoing food forest and garden rehab. I'm going to spend another day out there. So those are the immediate agenda. I'm kind of in this stage still where there's like lots of things just almost ready to rock and roll, but we're not quite there yet. Like I'm getting ready to go to these different events and to present and to teach and all this stuff. So it's like I have all this stuff kind of floating around in my head, and I need to keep more of it written down on paper and kind of keep a priority list going for myself. I found that as I've gotten deeper into running this business that I do need a little bit of a regular schedule, but I also don't like too much rigidity because it reminds me too much of having to, be on the ambulance and run these protocols and have all these rules and all these people I got to report to and all this ass kissing and all this stuff that has to happen. So I kind of rebel against that a little bit, but I do need a little bit of structure. I do better with a little bit of structure. So I've been working on lining those things up. The last thing that I kind of wanted to go over is it came to me earlier today, and I was thinking about the nature of criticism. And one of the reasons that I have only recently started to really ramp up my YouTube presence and putting myself out there more, especially in a live forum, is that I actually don't do well with conflict, and I will go to great lengths to avoid it, and I don't do well with criticism. And these are things that I know I need to improve about myself. Now, nobody's been stirring the pot. Nobody started shit. But what brought this about was, have you guys ever, like, you've followed somebody, an influencer or a writer or somebody that was, they were really into the thing you were also into, especially like maybe early on you were into it and you found somebody else who was, and you were like reading them and you were really inspired and you were really into what they were doing. So I had a person like that. I've had several, but I had one early on. I'm not going to drop any names. I'm sorry. I'm not going to do that because that's not really the point. So I had this person who I followed who was into farming and homesteading and kind of being very independent. And they're a writer and they're an artist and they do all these different things. And I even have some of their art. Like I bought some of their art. I have bought their books. I still have some of them on my shelf. And somewhere along the way, many years ago, I just stopped following them. I'm not exactly sure why I lost interest. I think maybe I think some of the content that was coming out was kind of repetitive and it didn't really hold my attention anymore. And I had kind of moved on. While I had the similar interest, I had steered myself more into this libertarian and anarchist way of thought. And I think this person kind of stayed a little more liberal or more to the side of, well, the right people in government can fix things. And I just don't feel that way. So it was just kind of like a natural parting. Well, like you do, like when you go look up an old girlfriend or boyfriend or something, I was like, I wonder what that person's up to. And I looked them up. And they're still blogging, some, and they have a Twitter and an Instagram account still. And one of the things that was a theme back then was that they were always struggling with money. Everything was about to fall apart. They were always a month or two behind on the mortgage. They were always having a very difficult time. And for a while, I kind of interpreted that in my old mindset prior to beating the crap out of the poverty mindset. I was like, man, that's tough, and I felt like sympathetic and I felt like I wanted to help them out and that kind of thing. And that's one of the things that made me remember, I'm like, I wonder what this person is up to, because I wanted to see if they had overcome that. And I was disappointed to find out that nothing had changed. They were still on their farm, still had their animals, but everything was still a struggle. Guys, I'm talking, it's been 10 years probably since I had looked this person up. And not only, like, they were only trying the same about 3 ways of making money. And as we all know, we need to have a dozen ways of making money, but they were still trying the same 3 things, coming across as it, to me, it came across as like begging, like really begging on these social forums and stuff. So I just, I kind of felt sad. I was like, man, it's too bad that they've not found their thing that has made them successful, that has made them just be able to, at least not be a month behind on a mortgage. So I'm going to say pause here for a second and check out what Chris has to say. People change, and you do outgrow people in your circles. It's normal, and you do have to disassociate with people who can bring you down. And I've done that in my own life too. Like that has happened. My friend circle has almost completely changed over. There's a few people who remain, which I'm very happy about, but there's a bunch that I just don't know what they're up to anymore. And so this person, this is an internet person. This is not a person I actually know, aside from, having commented on things from time to time, and like exchanged a couple of letters because they did a letter writing thing for a little bit. So this is not like a friend. This is not somebody I know, and this is not somebody who knows who the heck I am either. But this is where it gets more interesting. This person has continued to struggle, which is unfortunate, and I wish that were not the case. But what's interesting is that there are people who have decided that they hate this person, and they have devoted an entire blog, all anonymous, of course, to hating on this person because this person is unsuccessful, because this person asks for money. And I couldn't decide which was more pathetic, that people were obsessing over this person who was not harming them in any way, was not like they were choosing to have their time wasted. It was like a love to hate kind of thing. And I just found that really, really bizarre. And if I was ever around anybody who gave me even the first inkling that they had that kind of vibe, I would absolutely steer clear. So, that the internet, as we all know, is a strange place, and I always try to wish everybody well, and I'll associate with those who I can support, who support me, where we can exchange value with one another, and the rest, I think I'll just let it ride. What Spirko says about the temperature in the pool comes to mind. Yeah, it's really true. A lot of times, when the haters come about and that kind of thing happens, it's short, like it blows up and then it goes away. And what amazed me was that when I looked at this blog that was critical of this writer and this farmer, it had gone on for years and years and years. And like one blog had gotten reported for harassment, for actual harassment. And so they, killed that IP, started a new one where everybody's anonymous. And I don't know, I'm sure you can probably eventually figure out who somebody is, but it's just, what a miserable way, to be. So, that's just an observation, I'm not really trying to get down on anybody, but I think it's one of those things where it's a good reminder that we need to be mindful where we're directing our energy, because how do you achieve anything if you're just wrapped up in vitriol and hate because you disagree with how somebody's trying to obtain money? I used to get really aggravated when I would see somebody like a panhandler, and one day I really dug down deep inside and tried to figure out why that aggravated me, because most of us grumble, and we would really grumble if we saw this on the ambulance. This was really common back in the day, because we're getting paid like $9 an hour to deal with absolute shit. And there's a good chance that this person who's panhandling isn't actually homeless and isn't actually destitute, and they collect hundreds of dollars a day and go back to their apartment or their house and have a good time. Maybe not. You can tell some people are doing okay and others are not. But I had to realize that being angry at somebody else's circumstances is quite possibly the biggest waste of energy you could do. So yeah, like Rachel says, we got to focus on doing, and we got to focus on how to help others learn how to do, which is kind of, that seems to be pretty much the baseline setting for all of us in this community. That's what I'm going to focus on. I won't be revisiting that blog to see, you know, the hate going on. It was just stuff that was petty and frankly childish. It was very childish, you know, calling people names, calling, you know, making fun of people for the size of their body or the you know, the way they wear their hair or whatever. It's like, middle school, that was awful. Let's not go back to that. That was the worst. So you know, let's watch where we're putting our energy. I don't think it's a you know, I think we only get so much of it in a lifetime, so let's use it wisely. So that's about what I got for you guys tonight. I appreciate you guys popping in here to hang out for a little while. I am pretty sure we'll be able to resume the regular Friday live stream as we go along. I may end up doing one earlier in the day as well. I'm not going to get up early as Brian. Don't worry about that. I'm not going to go head to head with the Lots Project by any means. There's a reason you guys don't usually see me in the chat. If it is because I've gotten up early to feed the fire. So I pop in on occasion. But yeah, I may do like a, you know, maybe a 9 or 10 a.m. from time to time. We'll just see how it goes. But in the meantime, I'm going to go spend some time with my wife because I missed her. And I miss my dog. And I miss my cats. And no new sheep, by the way. The sheep numbers have not changed. And thank you, Brian and Cormac. Thank you guys for chilling. And I'll let you know when more sheep come along. So you guys enjoy the rest of your evening, and we will talk to you next time.